Welcome, welcome. Let's see here just a second. I don't know if we're live. Yeah, we are live. That's fantastic. We are excited to have you here today with us for the secret weapon to getting organized with Major Mom, Angela Cody-Rouget. We're going to get started here in just a moment. During this program, I am going to be talking with Angela about the major impacts of disorder on you and your family and why knowing this is the first step to decluttering. We're going to talk about the 8 major roadblocks to getting organized and how understanding gives you power. Some majorly simple steps to creating an orderly home, how to start with the last step in mind. And our guest today is Angela Cody-Rouget, and she is AKA Major Mom. She's the founder of the Major Mom Method, but she used to have the keys to the nukes at the U.S. Air Force. So she's not, don't mess with this gal. She is a professional organizer, motivating parents to create orderly homes as a family. You can learn more about her over at majormom.biz and also at womenspeakers.com. Super excited to have you with me here today, Angela. Welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, so you were literally a major, you were in the Army, in the military, and you have learned some amazing skills for organizing everything. And so you're going to be talking to us today about how to get our lives organized at home. Thank you for being here. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. I think our audio is doing good, but the video might be lagging, but we'll just roll with it.
Yeah, we're just going to go forward, and you guys can just listen. If you can't see all of the timings correct, you can at least learn what you can from the content here today, and prayerfully this will smooth out as we go along. You talk a lot about major stuff, and you use that word. Why did you decide major mom and majorly impacting, and why did you decide on that word?
Well, when I had my first child, I was a major in the Air Force. And so when I would get home from duty, my husband would run to the door with baby Lily and he would say, Major Mom is home. And so because I was a major in the Air Force, when I became a mom, that nickname just stuck. And then when I had my son, 18 months later, I decided that military life and motherhood were no longer compatible for the mom that I was longing to be and that God was calling me to become. So major is a big part of my career. And it's fun to, use that in the Major Mom Method and majorly organized and major impacts. And it kind of goes along with my personal brand and obviously my rank.
So fun, so fun. So as we go forward here, let's talk about the major impacts of disorder. Like why do you focus on helping people get organized?
I found out when I got out of the military that there were a lot of civilian moms at my mommy groups that would express to me and every other mom at the Mom and Me groups that I joined after I left the service. And they would say terrible things like, I wish my house would just get hit by lightning. I can't stand living in all this chaos and clutter. And so I started really developing a heart for busy moms that want an organized home. They want to be able to find what they need when they need it, and just would struggle finding it. And so each time I would go over to a house that was very disorganized, I didn't care. I didn't mind. It was kids and moms, and we're supposed to have a lot of fun. But I realized that at being the only tea drinker, that sometimes asking for black tea or, a hot tea became a search and rescue mission in the kitchen. So it was like, okay, you want me to help you organize your pantry? And some people would say, no, that's really weird. And then I would say, no, I really want to. Like, I love to do this. Or, hey, you want me to help you get your cars in the garage this weekend? So I really just developed this heart for this work. And I started to notice that when people got organized, their stress level just kind of lifted off of them. Like before my eyes, it was just amazing.
Yeah, I know. One of the sayings, and I'm such an organized person, and I find that clutter is very difficult on my psyche. But one of the things that I've always said through the years is when it's in my head, it's a million things to do. When I write it down, it's only 122. And it isn't like organizing solves every last thing and gets you out from under everything you have to do. But what it does is it makes it manageable. It makes it manageable to proceed with your busy life in a way that is less stressful. So, what are 8 major roadblocks to getting organized?
Well, the major impacts that, were the time, your money, all the things that I was hearing these moms talk about, and your health and your safety. But I would share with them, there's these major roadblocks that everyone experiences at some point in their life. And I have my notes with me because there's so many that I want to make sure I don't miss
Yeah.
one of them. Because sometimes when you are aware of the roadblock, you can stop beating yourself up and stop feeling bad about, that you can't keep your house together like your mom used to, or your sister does, or, we tend to compare ourselves to everyone else. And I say, here's the roadblocks. The first roadblock is paralyzed by perfection. This is a really easy one to understand for people who are not perfectionists, because they probably know a perfectionist. But paralyzed by perfection means you have torn out lots of magazine articles. They look like the home that we're in right now on our virtual
Our
house.
same home.
Yes. And this is the home that people dream that it would look like, a hotel room or a hotel lobby. And so that perfectionism is paralyzing, because they don't have enough time, money, or energy to actually make their home look like that. Plus, where are they actually going to put all the other stuff that they actually own and need? So that's the first roadblock. The second roadblock is procrastination due to lack of skill set. So this shows up a lot when moms who are not crafty want to make a baby book that's, right out of creative memory scrapbooks, or any company you can think of that has, the top of the line scrapbooks. And so this skill set doesn't even exist. They're not crafty. They might be very numbers oriented, left brain, linear, logical. And so another way I see this show up is, let's say business owners, self-employed or very, very small business, they download QuickBooks and they're like, I'm going to be a bookkeeper. This is just going to walk me right through it. But they actually don't know anything about bookkeeping. They don't know half the answers to the questions during the setup. And so what happens is they procrastinate, not because they're lazy, because they actually don't know how to do it. And so that's a roadblock. Another roadblock is the system is set up incorrectly from the get-go. Marnie, what this might look like is, in my house in Florida, when we walked in, we put all of the shoes right here, and that's what worked. But now we moved to Indiana, and I can't figure out where to put the drop zone. And so what they'll do is try to make it work where it used to work, right inside the entryway, but there isn't an entryway. And so they just start setting up things the way it used to be, because they can't reassess the house. And I don't know if you've ever experienced that, because you're in Minnesota and you're in Florida. Each floor plan almost needs a new system or a setup. So the other thing is that this sometimes sounds rude to people when I say it, but like, there's these creative geniuses and gardeners, and there are people who are born with the organizing gene. They're born with this innate ability. It is a learned skill, just like people can learn to do art. They can learn to garden. You can learn to cook. And then there's other people who just play music without even seeming to need one single lesson. And so if you don't have that natural ability and you actually resist organizing, that's a roadblock. And just own it and say, you know what? I hate cleaning, or I hate organizing. People always laugh when I tell them I can't stand cleaning bathrooms and toilets and floors, and I just hate doing bathrooms. And so organizing are two totally different skill sets. Another roadblock to getting organized is this: you're over committed at work, school, church, You name it, volunteer here, do this. You have so much going on. You come home, dump, leave, come home, dump, leave, go to the next thing. Kids are in sports. You're just overcommitted. So there literally is no time to get organized. As much as you dream about it and want to do it, you have to start saying no and have time to organize. The last three are very simple. Life transitions, and people don't even need me to explain that sometimes because they're right in the middle of one. But, having a baby, relocating, unfortunately losing a loved one is a major life transition. Adult children moving back in is a big trend right now. Graduating college, can't afford to live in these expensive rent places. So these life transitions are roadblocks, Marnie. And when you realize it, you can stop beating yourself up. The last two, emotional ties to your stuff, we're not even going to go into this one, and family and friends. The reason why family and friends can be a roadblock is because you might have one person in your family that's like, you have to keep everything. You never know if you're going to need that. And so, you have this messaging. Then your other maybe friend says, oh man, your mom would be very upset if she saw you get rid of this stuff and she saw how little you are and you're getting rid of too much. Or you know what? Keep those two things for me. I don't have room for them in my house, but you keep them in your house. And so family and friends can be a major roadblock to getting organized because of all the different dynamics of the stuff and who's going to be the keeper of the stuff.
Love that. Love that. So good. So let's distinguish then between a roadblock and a full stop. A roadblock is something that once you identify it, you can move it out of the way, or you could go around it, right? Or something like that. Whereas a full stop is that's going to you're not going to be able to go forward.
No, you're not going to be able to go forward. A full stop is when you're at a full stop, or you have 3 or 5 of those roadblocks going on at once,
right.
those will create the full stop. And so it is really important to reach out for help when you've got all of those going on, because people deserve help during these situations.
Right, absolutely. And I think that how you started it was so important, where it's not something to beat yourself up over. It's something to just recognize and say, oh, I see that this is where I'm at right now. This is why I'm struggling.
Yes, it's identifying the roadblock, and sometimes just sitting down and realizing, oh, that's why I'm so overwhelmed. I can't get my thoughts together.
Right. Right. And it isn't about you as a person being a failure or even a failure at organizing. It's just things that are blocking you from having a pathway to go forward. Let's talk then about when you're ready to make progress forward, some steps that we can take to getting our homes organized.
These are majorly simple steps to getting organized. And I say simple because when I share them with you, you're going to understand them. There's nothing complex about these steps, but they might be hard to implement. So that they are simple. So the first thing you have to do is stop the incoming. You have to stop bringing things into the house. Drive by that garage sale if you don't need anything. When you're at the store after Christmas or Easter and everything's on sale, do everything in your power not to bring more in, especially if you already have an abundance. And so the stop the incoming is like that very, very, very first step, because you never feel like you get organized if you keep bringing stuff in from a trade show. I have a lot of clients that have bags and 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 bags of trade show stuff. They never get emptied out. They just get, piled. So sometimes you can just say, you might not be able to tell them, no, I don't want that bag. That might be rude. But you can donate almost a lot of things that are given to you in that bag, or just not bring it home. Give it to somebody at the airport or the bus station. The other thing is that when you stop the incoming, then you can go to step 2, which is conquer the clutter in your home or your area by getting rid of everything you do not need want, love. Those are 3 categories. You don't need it, you don't like it or love it, and you don't want it. Now, people would say, well, who has stuff in their house that they don't even want? Okay, everybody can raise your hand. There's always something in your home that you don't want. And it may be something that someone bought you and you feel guilty. And you bring it out every time they come for the holidays. And then you put it away in the closet when they're gone. I understand some of those things have to happen. But if there's 25 of those things, that's when you can say, I'm conquering the clutter in our home. And this is an all hands on deck situation. This isn't mom going to the kids' rooms in her husband's garage area or, his basement area. This is an all hands on deck. Everybody takes care of their own stuff, because once people are a certain age, it's really inappropriate for a mom to throw away other people's stuff. It is absolutely inappropriate. And it causes side effects later in life, depending on how severe the mom is when she gets rid of everything. And I've been doing this for 20 years, and I've seen the side effects of, well, I keep everything because my mom got rid of everything. It's very, very severe. And so conquer the clutter. Focus on your own stuff first. We always have a good time with moms when they say, I cannot get my kids to make their bed, and I can't get them to do this. And meanwhile, their bed's unmade. Their stuff is all over the house. And so conquering the clutter for the mom of the family, I call the chief operations officer of the family. And if you're a single mom, you're the CEO and the COO. You really have to set the example and set the tone that we don't need this. We don't use this. And you just donate it. A perfectionist might say, I don't know where I'm going to donate it. So they might have 17 piles of where they're going to give this to mom and this to so-and-so. Just let God sort that all out. Just get it to Goodwill, Salvation Army. It doesn't really matter. Your church, let that all get worked out by someone else and just take that burden off of you. The last step is organize one room at a time using the major mom method. I call this the secret weapon, because a lot of times people buy all the cute containers for organizing first. It's actually the last step in the organizing process. And so a lot of times, if you realize, no, don't go buy a bunch of containers, because sometimes when you're in the process of picture what you want to happen, plan what you want to happen, and when you're establishing that plan and establishing a home for things, and you start sorting and determining what you're going to keep, you might realize, wow, we got rid of so much more than we thought. And now we have all these cutesy woots containers that we don't need. Or once we got into the planning session, we realized that container isn't going to work because we've changed our mind. We're going to do something else. So the Major Mom method, which is listed on majormom.biz and majororganizers.com, will take you step by step through visualizing what you want to have happen and then planning. Never in the military do we ever just, drop into the meeting and go, okay, we have no plan. What are we going to do? What are we doing here? It's like, no, we know exactly what we're going to be doing here. And sometimes when we work with our clients, sometimes it only takes us 10 minutes to visualize, come up with a plan. This doesn't have to be a week-long thing, but sometimes people need to be guided through it, because it's hard to visualize a space differently than it's been for maybe 1 year or 25 years. So those are the majorly simple steps. Stop the incoming, conquer the clutter, and organize one room at a time, or one drawer, depending on the level of clutter. Don't get off of this webinar and go grab your husband, lock all the doors, and say, we're organizing the whole house this weekend. I want my car in the garage. That's not really manageable size project with some guidance.
I loved how you said too, be careful about, overstepping, like with your spouse or with your children, especially adult children, on what you're throwing out or requiring people to do, and start with your own self. I think that's so important to start with. Get yourself organized, and you'll be surprised how inspiring that is to the people around you as you get more organized and they begin to feel that lightening of the burden in the home just by you getting organized and cleaned up yourself. And it takes a little bit to get used to it. You won't just all of a sudden, if it's a big change, it'll take your mind a little bit to get used to it. But in the end, you're just really going to love it. You're going to love that sense of being able to find what you're looking for, of being able to walk in and not feel stressed out, to be having a place to set things when you come in instead of having to clear a space every time. All those things are going to matter to you and are going to make your life and your family flow more smoothly. One of the things I was thinking when you were talking about not being careful not to throw away other people's stuff is to provide space. And you can say how much space there is. If there's only so much space per person to have stuff, then when that person exceeds that space, they have to figure something else out. They have to put stuff under their beds, or they have to do something different in order to make it work. But you get to have some control over what happens in your house. But I think that what you said is so important. I too have worked with gals whose moms were so controlling. And even, I remember one gal, her mom would take all of her stuff that was on the floor and throw it in the bathtub and start running water on it until the little girl could figure out how to put it away. And this caused just huge, huge trauma, huge, like hoarding mentality as an adult, right? So
Yeah.
as you are moving forward, just be gentle with your family. Don't overwhelm them just because you're excited to get organized. Think of them as well. Yeah. Any other thoughts on that before we move on?
Yeah, I think that the mom in general really sets the tone for the home. And this is a place where everyone needs to feel comfortable. So everyone needs to buy into this organizing plan. A place for everything and everything in its place. And every once in a while, the kids or the husband actually have a better idea where something should go if you just talk to them. And when they explain why they want it here versus there, you might say, I never thought of that. And so it really should be a collaborative effort. But at the end of the day, if the mom is like, no, you're not keeping all of this in the living room, this is a clutter-free zone. Well, that's a clutter-free zone. And so there has to be an ability for a mom or a dad to say, a lot of dads say, I don't want any toys in in the master bedroom, in the main bedroom. I don't want any toys. But they just encroach and encroach and encroach. And it's hard for some people to rest when their rooms are super cluttered. So it really should feel collaborative. And if it only is resulting in just bam, bam, fighting, that's when you need to call a professional organizer. You need to call in the troops, I say, because
Nice.
you need someone who can give you a clear outside perspective of, have you thought about this?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times people say, no, I never ever thought of that. And it's like, would you consider it? And so it's great because a professional, as you know, when you work in your industry, you have 27 ideas ready to go and you can present them one at a time until someone goes, yes, that's going to work.
Yeah. No, I love that. I love that. And the other thing about calling in some help is that we tend as human beings to be on better behavior when we are with an outside person than we're just with the people that know us the best and love us the most. And so sometimes just having someone else come in can reduce the anxiety and the kind of emotional free for all that's happening in a family argument. I know for us that has been helpful at times to just have a third party there present. This has come to my mind a couple times, and we're going to move on to our last point here, but it's very similar. Some of the things that you're saying remind me of, like when you said the master suite is a toy-free zone, or the living room is our clutter-free space. When I was raising our kids, we had, this is not the crying room. If you want to be sad right now, go ahead to your room. And when you're ready to come out and be cheerful, this is not the crying room. And as a mom, again, it goes back to that setting the tone in the home. what spaces are for what activities. And if we're going to have, if we're just going to be, grumpy and out of sorts, where is that appropriate? And then when can you come out and, like that? I think that it's very similar. We don't want to squish our feelings, our children's emotions or their property or their physicality. We don't want to squish any of it. We also want them to understand that certain behaviors and certain things are best in certain places at certain times. And just like how we wouldn't have a huge meltdown at a wedding or whatever, we know that we can have that meltdown with Jesus in our room in a little bit. And so we want to teach them right places, right times for things. And I love how much this is correlating. And I've never really put that exact thing together before until this conversation, but I think it's really cool that it's the same thing with stuff.
Oh, it's exactly the same.
Yeah.
Boundaries are so important when it comes to stuff because they're for someone like me. I'm not a perfectionist. I'm not obsessive compulsive about organization. I'm more on the fun side with it. But I do have, I've always had that my bedroom is just super clutter free, and it feels so good when I go in there
Right.
and because so many other rooms can get so chaotic during family life. So having like that one room that feels like, oh, is a good thing. Having a room where hubby can go to work on messy, dirty projects, or wife can go work on her messy, dirty projects. Just having some carved out space that doesn't infringe upon everyone's ability to be comfortable in the home is good.
Yeah. Love it. Love it. Okay, so the last thing you teach, and I love this too, how to start with the end in mind.
Yes. God says where there's no vision, man will perish. And so when we teach the major mom method and we teach the secret weapon to getting organized, we say that the secret weapon is the major mom method. If you don't know what you don't know, you kind of just go around in circles sometimes with organizing projects. But when you have a vision for what you want the space to look like, feel like, function like, there's three things happening there, which relates to what you just said. Then you can step back and say, okay, for instance, like a guest room, a lot of us need a guest room to have 3 or 4 functions. We don't all have 7-bedroom homes. And so that guest room needs to be the office. It needs to be the guest room. It needs to be the craft area or, a project area. And so some rooms can have 3 to 4 functions easily if it's organized, and very easy to stow away when a guest comes. And so if you begin with the end in mind and everybody agrees, hey, you know what? We could move all that stuff out of the dining room if we use the guest bedroom more functionally. And I love when people use the dining rooms, to get things done. But I also love that they can put it away, that they don't treat it as a 365 days a year room, unless it's a formal dining room that never gets used. So when you're visualizing that formal dining room and your organizer, imagine Major Mom, me, sitting next to you and saying, how often do you use the formal dining room? And if the client is honest and says never, then we start presenting ideas. How about we remove the table and make it into an office, a playroom, a den, a library? How about we make it a functioning space for the family? And so these are radical ideas for some people, maybe who are, I would say 60 and older, but for younger people, they're starting to not do formal dining rooms. And so when they buy a house with one, it's no big deal. So beginning with the end in mind is pulling back and seeing what your vision is with the space, and that it is in alignment with your family and how they see their home. And so at the end of the day, I always say, I have the final say, but it's no fun to create a home that everyone is not in love with.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. And I was thinking about the end in sight also is, do you want that, if it's a dining room table or a kitchen table or whatever, do you want it to be available to have family meals and to play games and things like that? Or should it always be covered with papers or the sewing machine or whatever it is that is consuming that space, and just saying, what is it that I really need here? And I remember the first time that I had a place to set up my sewing machine and leave it set up so that I could do the projects that I was working on. And that made a huge difference for me, instead of having to take it out, put it away, take it out, put it away, take it out, put it away. And sometimes that's possible, other times that's not possible. But when you start with the end in mind, like, what is your real goal here with this space, and what do you need to have happening in the full space that you have? It's going to help you to set it up in a different way than you would if you just keep on doing what you've been doing without thinking it through. And I think that's where somebody like you can really be helpful, bringing in an outside mindset and saying, yeah, but if we just put this, retractable desk thing on the wall over here in this room, you can have that up and down, in 60 seconds flat, and leave it out. And it just helps a lot to have somebody else help us look at it.
It's very helpful. And again, it's also kids have really good ideas. They really have some great ideas. I love when my kids they're adults now, but I love when they'd say, "Well, Mom, what about this?" And I'd say, "Oh, that actually is a really good idea." And so that's always really great. My husband really steps it up when it comes to, hey, because we've moved so many times as a family. Hey, we need to get our house staged, for sale. And our family knows what that means. It means declutter like crazy. A lot of stuff goes out, and a lot of stuff gets pre-boxed. But when you're staging your home, that's a completely different process than a home you're living in. Your home should never feel like you can't live in it
Right.
comfortably. And so I love the sewing idea because, we've organized thousands of households. And one thing that I see a lot is that the moms have no desk. They don't have a mommy desk. They don't have an office. They don't have anything to process all the papers, manage all the schoolwork, school papers in and out, and do their projects. And so a lot of times we'll say, no, don't be offended, Mr. Hubby. But a lot of times the husband works all day at another job, away from home, and he comes home and he has this big, huge office. And we always say, can you give up half of that office so she can have so many times people are like, that would actually get all of her papers off of the dining room table. And I'm like, yeah. So, again, what's your end goal? Most people say, I want all these papers. I want all this stuff off of the kitchen table. Most people feel that way, but a lot of people don't have a clue what the solution is.
Right. One of the things that's coming to mind real quick, and then we're going to close this out. It's such fun. Both my sister and myself, our husbands built us these beautiful pantries, and not gigantic, but big enough. And both of us turned our pantries into homeschool closets where we had all of the papers, everything we needed for homeschooling. And I remember both of them, we were about 10 years apart in when we were going through the process, but both of our husbands were like, hey, I meant for that to be a pantry. and both of us were like, but thank you, because this is exactly what we needed in order to organize all of the school books and everything so they weren't always all over the whole house. And so whatever it is, use the space that you've got, and you've got some space, and use that, prayerfully consider the options, call in somebody like Angela or her team or somebody to help you if you need some outside help. But get your home organized. It will make a huge, huge difference for you going forward. I want you guys to feel free to reach out to Angela as well. It's majormom.biz, B-I-Z. And also she's available to speak for your groups over at womenspeakers.com. Angela, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Marnie. It was great. I loved having this conversation and hearing your thoughts as well.
Thanks. Okay, guys, have a great day. We'll see you next time.